that civil libertarians were opposed to it right after 1994, and you can ask the Attorney General this because I got a call when he introduced the Patriot Act. He said, Joe, I'm introducing the act basically as you wrote it in 1994. It was defeated then not by any liberals. It was defeated then by the folks who worried that we'd have the Minutemen would get in trouble, by the Mr. Barrs of the world, who were worried about the right wing, not anything else. So that has nothing to do with you all, but just to set the record straight. Almost the same thing that got passed, the Patriot Act, was introduced by me in 1994, and it was the right wing that defeated it. You guys tried to help get it passed, including the wiretap changes and the rest. So,
wow, yes, that is the current sitting president, Joe Biden, bragging about how he wanted to take away your civil liberties and rights in the 90s, how he did it in 2001, and guess what? He's planning on doing it again with what people are calling the next Patriot Act 2.0. And we're not even talking about his crime bills that essentially created mass incarceration. Yeah, talk about the president of peace and unity. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. This is Luke Rudowski of WeAreChange.org. A lot of important news to get into today, as of course there is massive civil unrest, not just in Tacoma, Washington, but many other parts of the world, specifically in the Netherlands, where insane actions are happening right now. We're going to get into that, and a very important interview about the future of the US dollar, economic trends, and of course also gold. Literally too much to talk about, but we're going to jam-pack it in right now, as of course we have a sitting president that has been in power in politics for close to over 50 years, since, you know, of course, the person you want to bring change to Washington, D.C. is a career politician that has been creating laws for close to 50 years that created the current situation we're in. And some people think that this is literally going to change things somehow for the better. But Joe Biden, in his first days in office, doesn't just have to pass laws, doesn't just have to write them, argue for them, and pass them through the legislative process. He could just sign them into law through the executive order process, which he, of course, is taking full advantage of, and is even on pace for signing more executive orders than Donald Trump, especially within his first 3 days, as he has already signed 30 of them. Many of them, of course, dismantling many of Donald Trump's policies, other symbolic and very divisive ones, allowing trans children to participate in girls' sports, which the Wall Street Journal writes an opinion piece on about this essentially ending it. And even though some people are celebrating these moves, while others point out that his executive orders and latest policy decisions have led to the loss of close to 52,000 jobs in the oil industry, while at the same time some people say that this ended energy independence for the United States. Canada is also very upset with the United States about this executive order decree surrounding the oil pipeline that was going to join Canada and the United States. Insulin prices are already increasing. Gas prices are soaring, union jobs are being lost, and we're just only a few days into his presidency. There also is surprisingly a lot of scuttlebutt and conversations in the media about radical Islamists inside of Syria. There are some reports of U.S. troop movements into that region. Close to 7,000 National Guard troops are going to be stationed still in the U.S. Capitol. There's a major caravan of illegal immigrants heading towards the United States border. There has been a complete halt to the student loan forgiveness that he promised, the 2000 stimulus check program that he promised, and of course, many Americans are getting a very rude awakening to the reality of the situation that not just the people of the United States face, but the entire world, as of course there are more prospects for the military-industrial complex right now, with the new hire of a Raytheon board member that literally has his fingerprints all over some of the worst American foreign policies decisions in the last 2 decades. But the mainstream media doesn't care about his follies, his mistakes with American foreign policy. They're just obsessing over his race for some reason, rather than his merit. And as these policies ramp up, we do have to say, professionally, what did you think was going to happen? And we told you so. The working class stiffs are kind of bewildered, just like the meme that you're seeing in front of your screen right now. Especially, very interestingly, a lot of social justice warriors, and also particularly Antifa, that has been raging inside of the town of Tacoma, Washington, after a police officer Saturday night drove over protesters with his vehicle. Yes, the video is graphic. We're not going to be showing you it in this video, but police said that they were responding to reports of drag races when they were, quote, swarmed by a group of individuals. The police vehicle, of course, then moved forward, knocked some people on the ground, ran some people over, and because of that, we have massive civil unrest and the destruction of a lot of property in Tacoma, Washington, where it looks like the police officers have essentially, in many instances, backed down during these demonstrations and also during some of the destruction of people's private property. And we have to say, it didn't take long for the civil unrest to come back into this country. And as we've been telling you, this is going to be a ramping up of protests, of unrest coming here in the United States, which of course we believe will only be ramping up from here. Now, of course, that's not the only civil unrest in the world, as of course in the Netherlands we are seeing massive, huge civil unrest in the streets against some of the lockdowns and restrictions implemented by, of course, the Dutch government, which of course people are not happy about. They even decided to burn down a testing facility as police officers are using water cannons, tear gas to break up any demonstrations that they see against them. Now, with a lot of these instabilities, especially with the new Biden presidency, what's next, especially financially, especially with the economy? And to answer that, in this video, we sat down with Blue Lagoon Resources President and CEO Rana Vig to discuss what's going on with the dollar, alternatives to the dollar like gold, and of course also future economic trends. This video, by the way, was conducted in part and behalf of Blue Lagoon Resources. We are working with them for full transparency. And again, this is not financial advice. Do your own homework, do your own research, make the right financial decisions for yourself. But for me, this interview is a win-win for everyone, since we get to talk to an entrepreneur about what exactly is happening on the ground and where things are going from here. So Rana, thank you so much for joining us. And the first question, just kind of jumping right into the meat and potatoes of the argument here, with gold holding its own and the mainstream media telling you that it's going to go down, what do you make of the market right now from your expertise and professionalism, what your ear on the ground?
Well, what's the first thing that we know? Don't believe the mainstream media, right? It's just a bunch of nonsense, if you ask me. Look, why is gold going to go up and continue to go up? It's the fundamentals. I mean, you don't have to look at any further than to see what's happening, with the U.S. dollar and how it's being devalued and depreciated. And see, that's the thing that people don't understand, right? It's not even that so much that the gold's going up. It's that the governments all over the world are so debt-ridden. Right, so their currencies keep they're worthless. They're getting devalued every day. So gold has to go up. It's the only really form of currency that mankind's known for thousands of years. So how can it not go up? I mean, it's just fundamentals.
Especially with so much printing of the money. I have a lot of things I want to ask you. I want to ask you about Bitcoin, about gold, about the market, the futures, especially the Biden presidency. But before we get into that, if someone doesn't know you, who are you and what is the Blue Lagoon Resources? What should people find? What should people know about you?
Oh, well, okay. Well, I'm an entrepreneur, relatively new to the capital markets, got involved about 10 years ago. Most of my life, I've been in private enterprise, 30 years plus, had 5 different startups. Basically, I'm a startup guy. I enjoy putting projects together. And, I learned a long time ago, I'm not that smart. So the best way to do that is I have 2 strategies. One is outwork everybody, just work hard, honest and sincere, hard work. And number 2, just make sure I surround myself with the very brightest and the best of the specific industry that I'm in. I always want to be the dumbest guy in the room, right? I have no ego problems. I want to learn from others and execute on a plan. So basically, I got involved in the capital markets about 10 years ago and got into mining. And my mentor who brought me in the business, he made most of his money initially in mining, a very successful entrepreneur worth well over $300 million at the time, and brought me into the mining sector. Unfortunately, or fortunately for me, the mining sector collapsed, and it was a very rough entry indeed. I got in and, put 7 figures into the market, only to find out it was worth, just almost nothing a few months later. But you know what? You lick your wounds and you get up. There's no point crying about it, and that's what entrepreneurship is all about. And I took over a couple of my investments in the mining space and kind of hung in there. And then in 2018, they say in this business that trend is your friend. And guess what? Mining still hadn't come back, but cannabis did. Cannabis became extremely, extremely hot, as I'm sure you know and your audience knows. So I laser beamed focused on that industry, and I was very fortunate. I took a company called Curaleaf public, which was out of the Boston area, and Curaleaf was the largest Canadian cannabis raise in history, a $520 million raise it was a $6 billion RTO. And then I was fortunate to do it again a couple of months later and found a company out of Arizona called Harvest Health and Recreation. And that was the third largest of 2018 at a $300 million raise and a $2 billion RTO. So I was very, very fortunate to be involved, made a lot of people a tremendous amount of money. And then I'm always reading, I'm always looking at what's happening because you got to be a little bit ahead of the trend if you can. And all this money printing that you just talked about and what was happening around the world. And I thought, you know what, the mining has to come back. It's been 10 years that it hasn't have been, and it's a very cyclical business. And specifically, precious metals, I thought were on the verge of taking off. And this is, of course, a couple of years ago when gold was still around 1250, 1350. And I was very fortunate, and I decided to launch Blue Lagoon Resources, which is a gold focused company. Everybody thought I was crazy. But thank God I think I made the right decision. So here we are today. I'm running this company. We have tremendous assets, and I believe nothing but upside coming up this year and in the future.
It's a great entrepreneurial kind of attitude and spirit, which I definitely think we need more of, because if you could make it through the turbulent times, you could make it through anything. And I definitely agree with you, especially with the sentiment of not being too egotistical and understanding your limits and understanding that maybe other people have more expertise than you. And I definitely don't see myself as the smartest man in the room. And some people would argue that our current president of the United States might not also be the smartest man in the room, but they do expect a lot of major moves from him in the international stage and also domestically with a lot of policies that are going to be spending a lot of money. How do you see the markets moving, specifically the kind of alternatives to the dollar moving with this new Joe Biden presidency in the United States?
Yeah, look, you said it. The fact of the matter is that the left believes and feels that everybody should get everything for free, for nothing, and I'm adamantly against that. But you know what? In order to fulfill that, what they want to accomplish, they gotta get money from somewhere, and governments don't have many sources of income other than you and me, right? From taxes, and they can only tax us so much. And the only other method they have is to print it, to create it, out of thin air. And unfortunately, that's what they've been doing since since the world got off the gold standard. So I see a tremendous amount of printing going on very rapidly. Look, when 2008 and 2000 happened, that financial crisis, I think it was around 750 or 800 million dollars they put into, what the new term at the time was quantitative easing, which is now, a regular phrase and ingrained into our vocabulary. But and we thought, wow, $800 million. That's an incredible amount of money. But now I think we're just well over $2.5 trillion, and I think they're about to pass another over $1 trillion, and that's just the beginning. So all of these factors are going to lead into further and further debt, which they cannot repay. I'm not sure how the story. This story is not going to end well, unfortunately, right? And all of that
Sorry, go ahead.
All of that devaluation is what the environment that the precious metals like. The unfortunate thing is, and people are short-term thinkers. So what happens is, with the media talking about, look at gold's pulled back, come down. What people forget is that for forever it was what, 1,000, 1,200, 1,250. If you had told me 10 years ago, or in the when after the last sort of explosion of into the market for gold, if you had told me that it'll be 1850, I would have said, wow, 1850, really? So it's not about where it's headed. It's about even where it's at right now, which makes it very, very profitable for companies like ours and many other in the sector.
Yeah, people need to realize you made very good points. In 2008, the money spent on the housing market crisis is a drop in a bucket compared
Yes.
to the trillions that are just absolutely wasted and printed by government. That I mean, right now, Joe Biden talked about a $1.9 trillion quote relief bill that will, of course, mostly be subsidizing big cities and a lot of the big mistakes that they're making. But people need to understand this. Money doesn't grow on trees. It has to come from somewhere. And I'm happy you brought up the two ways that it's made. And the two larger effects of that is government intervention that, of course, hurts business, hurts entrepreneurship, and hurts the value of the dollar. That's why we're seeing institutions like Goldman Sachs literally trying to forecast gold at $2,300. And let's just say gold stays flat at like $1,800. How profitable is the industry compared to previous years, even if that would happen?
Very profitable, and that's the point, right? Most mining companies here, in this part of the world, anyways, their cost is just under $1,000. So when you're talking about all inclusive cost of being that, and gold being at 1850, that's a tremendous amount of profitability. And then there's silver. My team always keeps reminding me, hey, you never talk about the silver. At our property, we have a 1-to-4 ratio of gold to silver. So for every ounce of gold we have, we got 4 ounces of silver. And silver at $25 range, becomes very, very lucrative and profit. And traditionally, we didn't really look at those numbers because it wasn't that exciting. But now at those prices, that adds a tremendous amount, to the bottom line. And if nothing else, it pays for all our expenses, which obviously makes the company more profitable. And a lot smarter people than me are projecting silver to be, certainly north of $30, $35, $40 very soon.
Yeah. Now, if you remember watching the show even years ago, I've been telling people I'm not a financial analyst. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not giving you financial advice. But personally, I think it would be a good decision to diversify, whether it's gold, silver, alternatives to the US dollar with other foreign currencies, and also cryptocurrencies. And I really wanted to get your take because right now, cryptocurrencies went down close to 11 to 12%. The mainstream media is already telling you it's dead, it's gone in the water. But from your kind of assessment, from your kind of financial advice, what do you say to someone who says, why should I go into silver? Why should I go into gold when I could just go into this crazy Bitcoin market? What's your response to individuals who say that?
Well, I think it's what you just said at the end there, this crazy Bitcoin market. I mean, look, are you an investor or are you a gambler, right? I mean, that's what you have to decide. And if you're a gambler, that's fine. I mean, if you can afford the potential loss or can stomach that kind of volatility, then I think and assume that risk, I think it's okay. But I personally, I'm not I think that Bitcoin has a space in our life. I think we'll have to see that how it grows and how it matures. But I think it's too early to tell. I mean, it's just the volatility is incredible, and I'm as an investor, I'm just not prepared to take that risk with my hard-earned money. Whereas gold and silver has been around for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, as you know, and has been the fundamental of every monetary. I mean, it's the only thing that's been really considered as value, money. So, am I ready to put a whole bunch of money into Bitcoin and hope that it goes up? I don't think so. I'm not game for that.
Yeah, it's still a very wild and unpredictable market, to say the least. But moving forward, you pretty much, correct me if I'm wrong, deal with a lot of exploration. How do you see exploration this year in 2021, especially with a lot of the kind of COVID restrictions that have been going around? How do you see this kind of unfolding moving forward from here?
Well, we're very fortunate. Our property is in northern British Columbia, outside of a small town called Smithers. That we can drive to the property for in less than an hour, in 45, 50 minutes. And that part of the world, fortunately, hasn't really been touched by COVID very much. I mean, we've got over 20 people right now working on the site as we speak, and we have protocols in place. We've expanded our buildings up there just to make sure that everybody is separated and take all the precautions. But it has not affected our operations at all. And in fact, we have two plays here. We have an underground mine. We're fully permitted. We're very unique in that we have all the permits that are required to get this back into mining. And the only reason it's not mining right now is that, we only brought this project about 8-9 months ago, and the only reason the other guy, my predecessors, weren't mining is because they ran out of time. They were 83 years old and literally ran out of time, and so along came someone like myself. So we're hoping to get this thing into production here in the next few months. We're getting very, very close, and COVID hasn't affected that, thankfully. And on the exploration side, it's a huge property, never been explored. 90% of it has never been explored because their whole focus was trying to get it into production. And so we're full steam ahead. We started a big program, a big 20,000 meter drill program. We started that on the 11th, so that was at about 10, 11 days ago. And last week we added a second drill. So right now, 24/7, those drills are turning. And we have a very, very exciting and a very busy year coming up in 2021.
Well, I'm definitely going to be keeping a close eye on it, especially with the way the economy has been going, especially with the way just 2020 was an absolutely crazy year. I think 2021 is going to be absolutely crazy here, to be honest with you, and I think there's going to be a lot more volatility. And how do you see things moving forward? How are you personally deciding to move forward in this very uncertain, very turbulent kind of new year, new president, new government, new policies that are going to be instituted?
Well, look, I have mixed feelings, on the because I'm not a, socialist. Obviously, I'm not enthusiastic about, some of the policies that are likely to, put into place. Because as much as I am in favor of helping, my neighbor, I'm not in favor of giving everything for free, if you like, right? But on the positive side, the silver lining and all of that. I mean, I can't control that, unfortunately, right? I mean, that's they're going to do what they're going to do, and that's the game, and they'll be there for at least the next 4 years. But what I am excited about, the silver lining, is that from a market perspective, things have been nothing but better. I mean, this is a time when generational wealth is created. And this is what I'm excited about, that we are just in the beginning of the precious metals super cycle. And you know what? We'll be laughing in the next 2, 3, 4 years, looking back and saying, wow, when gold was 1800, 1850. So my thought is, don't get hung up with this media and what people are saying. You got to always look at the fundamentals and to see, what kind of makes sense. And, could gold go, I mean, like, as I mentioned earlier, could somebody 10 years ago or 5 years ago even think that the gold was going to be at 1850? No, I highly doubt it, other than obviously the gold bugs who've been talking about this, for years. But now the fundamentals are there to support it. So, my thought on this is that, you don't want to miss out an opportunity, whether it's companies like ours or whether it's other companies that are good companies. The key is to make sure they have good management, that have a track record. They've been there, done it before. Not necessarily in mining. I mean, I'm not a mining guy. But I'm an entrepreneur, right? And as long as they surround themselves with the right people, the right team, and they have the ability to execute, that's key. And then, of course, they have to have a good project, right? Which certainly we do. And then, of course, make sure that I would suggest make sure people have some of the physical product, have some of the physical gold, have some of the physical silver, because that is something that is not necessarily an investment, but an asset, right? That's something that you're protecting your wealth with. Those would be my thoughts on that.
Very good points. Thank you so much for the kind of wealth of knowledge and the information drop about so many common sense things that, of course, we rarely ever, if we ever get a chance to hear on the mainstream media. Rana, where else could people find you? Anything else you want to say to our audience?
Yeah, look, the best is to go to our website and get information, bluelagoonresources.com. I'm a very engaged CEO. I'm happy to engage in a discussion, in conversations, about our company. You can email me from our website, and I'm happy to answer any questions. And the thought I would have is, again, this is not the time to be a spectator, right? You got to get involved, you got to get engaged, and whatever it is, do the research. Research is so easy these days, right? Google.com, it can tell you everything, right? Basically, right? So yeah, reach out and do some research, but make sure that you would get engaged. We trade in Canada under the symbol BLLG, and in the U.S. under BLAGF. I think it's a very exciting time, 2021, from a market perspective and an economic perspective. I think for those individuals who get in early in our position, I think is going to be very, very exciting.
Definitely. I couldn't agree with you more. And whether it's Google, Presearch, DuckDuckGo, definitely do your own homework, do your own research. That's what I've been preaching for a number of years. Rana, thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure to have you on, pleasure to be working with you. Really appreciate you. If you're interested in what Rana has, check out the link in the description below. And once again, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. Incredible, amazing individuals watching every single video I do. And this is why I love you guys. Stay tuned for more here on wearechange.org.